So welcome everybody. It's Thursday, the 16th of July, 2020. This is a Tilt webinar with Carmen Scoggins. Is it time to reboot or recalculate? Easy to use websites and EdTech ideas for remote learning and beyond. Exactly the sort of title and content that we all need at the moment across the entire planet. So I'm Helen Myers. I'm chair of the Association for Language Learning London branch. We always thank Heike Philp, who helps us set these things up, and Linguascope. Joe Dale is in the room. He's the most important person, really, I think, again, on the planet, probably, for bringing people together. Do you want to say a few words, Joe?
Yes, please. Thank you. So thanks ever so much for those kind words, Helen. I really appreciate it. I think it's very much a team of two volunteers putting all this stuff together for everybody. But we're nearly up to 40, I think, 40 Tilt webinars since lockdown started in March. So it's my absolute pleasure. But as a day job, I do have to earn a living as well, doing paid webinars. And in the chat, I've just put 18 sessions of things I could offer to individuals or to departments. If you're interested, we had on Monday, we had the first sort of promotional webinar that I'm being involved in by Alistair Harris from All In. And lots of people came along, about hundreds of people registered and hundreds of people came along as well, which is amazing. About 300 came on the night, which was fantastic. And literally today, in the last couple of hours, I've put out a new link. On the 22nd of July, we have a chat with Extempore, which is a speaking tool, which is not free, but is very interesting, well worth having a look at. So if you have a look at the link that I tweeted, the webinar is free. So if you want to come along and have a nosy and see what it can do from one of the developers, then that would be amazing. That's on the 22nd of July, so in 6 days' time. And I'll be putting all your questions to the developer. So looking forward to seeing you there. Over to you, Helen.
Thank you very much, Joe. So ALLT, please, I know that a lot of you have been doing this, it seems like every night for the last 3 months, but could you write in the chat now if you're a member of ALLT and encourage people to join, tell them why it's good to join. So this is the Language Subject Association, which represents language teachers, guides language teachers. If we have consultations, then we are now holding webinars for that sort of thing. That seems to have helped quite a lot. We have a really lovely magazine which comes out regularly, just a lovely community with a big conference every year. Join today, become a member, you get 10% discount if you use the code webinar10, and that offer runs until the 30th of September. So probably for people who are renewing their membership as well. I'm not sure, it might work for you as well. Well, I'll be putting a link in the chat window and sending you by Eventbrite the link to see all of the webinars which we've had, including this one. Coming soon, we've got Show and Tell. Joe, do you want to say something about the Show and Tell on Saturday?
Yeah, so the Show and Tell, it's literally just a couple of days away. And so we've got a Google form, which I'm sure we can put in the chat in a minute. So we do encourage you to share something. It's only sort of 5 minutes per person, but if there's an idea which you have found has been particularly successful that's worked in the remote teaching classroom, then please do come along and share. And if you just want to come along and watch, that's fine as well. But obviously the event is made through the contributors, so it'd be lovely to see you there.
And then we have two others which are coming up, and there are others about to happen as well. So that's July the 25th and July the 28th. So whether you're joining on Zoom or on YouTube, please be aware of our etiquette. The summary is that we are professional and we are kind. ALLT London is very happy to host speakers and participants free of charge. Speakers and participants are responsible for what they say. So this is who you've come to listen to, really, and that is Carmen. And Joe, would you like to introduce Carmen? We've got a slide here which says who she is, and then the next slide says what she's going to talk about.
Yeah, I would absolutely love to. I'm absolutely made up that that Carmen has agreed to do this webinar. So I was at ACTFL in 2014. So ACTFL, for those people that don't know, is the American Council of Teachers of Foreign Languages. So a little bit like ALLT, but on a much bigger level, in the sense that at the national conference, you have between 8,000 to 12,000 people, I think, that go along normally. So quite a few more than at Language World, which is our equivalent event. But there we are. And I just went along to a session, never having heard of Carmen before, just saw it had technology in the title, And I was absolutely blown away by what Carmen did. And I've been a fan ever since. And we connected on Twitter that very session, I think. I think she was very much into Wix, which, if you don't know, is a website for building resources. I know that Carmen's still a fan of Wix. And, genuinely, I was really blown away. So I'm really delighted that Carmen has agreed to do a session tonight. You're going to really enjoy it, particularly if you're into animated GIFs, but lots of really good ideas. As Helen was saying a moment ago, I think this is exactly what we need at the moment. We need to reflect on what has happened in the last couple of months, where we're at with our teaching and getting ourselves ready for September, and also not being too hard on ourselves as well, because I think we've all coped very, very well. So over to you, Carmen. Thank you so much for doing this. Really looking forward to this session.
Because I'm really looking forward to Wix is the one that keeps coming up on my YouTube adverts. Always, I'm being encouraged to use Wix. So
it's my favorite thing ever. So you'll see a few of my sites today, actually. So, or you'll have access to them, and then you can go back and look at them later. So I'm going to start sharing my screen now, and hopefully everyone, can hear me.
Yep, all good. We can see your screen. That's fantastic.
Yeah, you can see my little person. Well, first of all, I am a big, gigantic fan of Joe, so I don't know what he's talking about, but he's the real, the real guy here. And I think Joe attended a workshop I gave actually at ACTFL, and I had heard of your name, and I looked out and I saw Joe Dale sitting there. I was like, what is Joe Dale doing in my workshop? So I felt like I was in the presence of a celebrity. So I am very honored that you would ask me. So my question today is it time to reboot or recalculate? And we will advance. This is a little bit about me. I am in North Carolina, right here in the top left corner, in the northwestern corner, along the spine of the Appalachian Mountains. So it's really great climate here. We get some snow in the winter, and it's wonderful. This is how you can access me on Twitter, or here's my email if you still have some questions at the end. This link right here will just take you to like my personal website. Obviously it's Wix. And this is the tiny URL for today. I've already dropped it in the chat box, but I'll do that again before we get away from here. So I would just like to thank ALLT, I hope I said that right, and TILT for this awesome opportunity. This actually is my first kind of international thing, so I'm pretty excited to be here. And I'm going to go ahead and get started with you. And I think the way I'm going to approach this is slightly differently from your other TILT webinars. So I hope that's okay, because that's how it's going to be. I told Joe that I noticed that a lot of your webinars, you just jump straight into the technology. But I am going to do a little bit of background, just because I am from the United States, and I just wanted to lay the foundation of some of my beliefs before I jump into some tools that have really saved my life, especially during the spring of this year. So our goals today are, I can identify a time when I've had to reboot, I can rethink a tech tool mostly, and I can recalculate to reach my destination. So hopefully we'll tackle all those things in the next hour-ish of time. Now, before we get started though, if you could think of a GIF that would represent how you feel at this very moment, what would it be? So I'm going to give you like 2 seconds to think. This is how I feel pretty much all the time, right? Or maybe you feel like this. That's insane. I don't even know what happened in the spring. And pretty much I said this all the time. Hey, let's just get some pizza, because I don't know what else to do. I'm tired of cooking. I'm tired of being inside. And this is literally how I felt every day. I felt like I was taking crazy pills nonstop. So it's one of my favorites. And of course, during the spring, since we were quarantined, every day felt like the same day. It's hard as an educator in the summer to even remember what day of the week it is, but certainly even during the spring this year, I was like, is it Thursday? Is it Sunday? I don't even know. Maybe you feel like you're being dragged through your week looking like this. That's kind of me, but this is actually what I look like when I get up in the morning. I don't know if you guys have ever seen The Ring. That's me climbing out of bed, trying to get ready for the day. But actually, this is me in my classroom, and we just found out on Tuesday in our state that we are going back to face-to-face learning in just a few weeks. So I have a little bit of anxiety about this, but that's okay. We're going to make it work. This is what I look like. It's pretty much chaotic all the time. And then, of course, working from home, this is kind of how I looked on an iPad, on my computer. nonstop. So I just wanted to set the tone a little bit and make us laugh, because I think GIFs do that, and kids love them. If you're not using them with students, anytime you can throw a GIF in, it's awesome. Also, before we get into some of my favorite tech tools that hopefully will become your favorite tools, unless you're already familiar with them, is to show you a couple of things that how I set up things. As much as I love technology, I do not believe in just using technology for technology's sake. So I want to ground you in a few of my principles, and this is something I made for teachers. I call it the path to proficiency. And so this is for me to remind myself of different processes I go through as I'm planning for my students. So what do I identify my targets? What do I want my students to know, be able to do and understand? I try to get to know my students really well so I can incorporate student interests. I utilize the 6 core practices, and you guys might not be familiar with the 6 core practices in the UK, but if you just Google them, you'll find what Joe, the association Joe was talking about, ACTFL, ACTFL. They have lots of information on them. I plan nonstop, as we all do. I collaborate like you guys are doing right now. I reflect all the time as much as I can. I share my experiences. I've been presenting now for about 25 years, and then I just love what I do. So I try to emulate that. And I forgot to tell you that I am a Spanish teacher, and that I currently teach secondary Spanish, so like high school age, and I also teach at my local university, where I get to train future world language teachers. So that's probably the highlight of my day. So this is the teacher path, and I have a student path, and this is actually like a bulletin board in my classroom so that students can see what's expected of them. I ask them to tell me how they think they learn. If they don't know, then we do some kind of online tool that tells them, are they a visual learner, auditory, etc. We set some language goals together. Of course, I want them to participate. They monitor their own progress with the language. And if anyone's interested in me explaining how I do that, I can do that later through email or something. They help each other. My level 3 Spanish learners actually work in collaborative teams. And so they really, really support one another. We practice every day, just like all good athletes do. You wouldn't just throw the team out on the football field and say, good luck, right? So we have to do drills and practice. And I equate learning a language like that for my students so that they can say, yeah, well, I have to practice if I'm going to get better at anything. We reflect. I make my students reflect all the time. And then, of course, I ask them and encourage them to use the language outside the classroom. If we teach today as we taught yesterday, we rob our children of tomorrow, says the famous John Dewey. And that's where the technology begins to come in. I have been teaching for 26 years, and I don't want to teach the same way I taught before. Why would I want to do that? Things have changed. Our learners have changed. I've changed. Technology has changed. So that's why we're here today. So thinking about rebooting or recalculating. Now, you guys are the textperts, so to speak. So you know what these terms mean. But when I started thinking about how to equate this to what I was actually going through, or what I've gone through over my 26 years in the classroom, it makes sense to me. And so you know that rebooting is actually creating a new version of something. Like right before the webinar started, I shut my computer down. I rebooted to kind of go back to ground zero, to level everything out. So I want you to think about a time in your career that you've actually had to reboot. Okay, I'm going to give you some of my examples in a minute. Whereas recalculating is maybe we had one idea in mind of how this particular topic was going to go. Things didn't go so well, or students needed more assistance, so we had to recalculate. Just like when you use a GPS, right? You turn the wrong way, and then the voice says recalculating. And that's kind of where I got that thought too, because we know things do not go as planned in the classroom. So this is the background, thinking of rebooting or recalculating. All right, so reboot. The first time I think I had to reboot was when I transitioned from teaching what we call elementary school and middle school. So I told Helen, I don't really know how the system works in the UK, but I think this is kind of your age range, maybe the key stages, 1, 2, and 3. So I'm talking about like 5-year-olds to maybe 13-year-olds. We house them in one school. In my district, we have 8 of those types of schools, and we only have 1 secondary school. So it's a small district. So I went from teaching every child in the school every day at 2 schools to teaching secondary, or like age 14 to 18-year-olds. And I've been doing that for 17 years. And at that same time, I transitioned to the university where I've taught Spanish in the methodology class. So that's the first time I had to really just shut down and reboot and say, oh my goodness, you know, things are not quite the same teaching elementary kids as they are teaching high school kids. But I will tell you this, and you know, if you've taught long enough, that all kids are basically the same no matter how old they are. They want to feel loved and cared about, and they just want to feel like they're in a safe place. And so no matter if they're 5 or 15, that's what I've tried to do in my career. And I've been blessed that I've had all those opportunities. Another time I had to reboot was when I decided about 12 years ago to drop the textbook. I'm in a very supportive district that doesn't require us to use textbooks if we don't want to. And this was our last textbook. I think it was adopted in maybe 2000. So why would I want to use something that's 20 years old? Now, to be fair, if you're in that situation and the activities work for you, by all means, you know, I'm not slamming textbooks. I'm just saying I abandoned them about 12 years ago, and I moved on to using other things that got the same language production that I needed without just relying on a static, outdated textbook. And of course, I employ a lot of authentic resources when I teach too. So with the increase of technology, so of course I'm 48 years old here, I'm just going to lay it out there. I did not grow up with the current technologies we have now. I mean, I grew up with all kinds of other things that are considered technology, but I've had to evolve over time too. So yay. Something else that I did that I would consider rebooting is beginning to think differently about how I plan. And I'm sure you guys know the term backward design or understanding by design. And this is Grant Wiggins and Jay McTighe, their theory of you've got to plan your learning targets. What do you want, again, students to know, be able to do and understand at the end of each lesson, at the end of each unit. Then you plan your assessment. How are you going to know if students are able to do those things? And then you plan how you're going to get there. That's the learning progressions, like the roadmap of the pit stops you might make or the things you might do along the journey to the assessment, to the destination. Again, think of this in terms of a GPS. Plug that address in first and then plan how you're going to get there. That makes the most sense. So I switched over to this philosophy probably when I dropped the textbook about 12 years ago, and it makes a lot of sense for me. Also, 10 years ago, my school went 1-to-1. So that means, of course, I'm sure you know, but every student has a device. We started with these clunky PCs, and then they now have more compact Chromebooks. And so I've been around technology a lot, and we're encouraged to use a lot of technology. And Joe's right, I present a lot about technology, but I have to really keep in mind how I'm going to use that technology, because not all technology is created equally. And I just want to make sure the tool that I choose is supporting my end goal. So I made this infographic. It's pretty old now, but if you look at it, it's backward design, sort of, because the one's at the bottom. But think about, let me go back. Think about the destination. So does the tech tool even support the end goal? Is it relevant to real world experiences? Can I use it for any kind of assessment? Does it support the 3 modes of communication: interpersonal, interpretive, and presentational? Does it provide any opportunities for differentiation? And lastly, kind of important, do the students even like the technology? Do I want to give them a tool to use that's going to take me 15 minutes to explain them how to use it and waste our class time? Or can I just get in and get out with something that's pretty easy to use? So these are, again, I'm sorry I'm not into the tech yet, but I just wanted to lay the foundation of kind of how my brain works when I'm choosing the technology that I choose. So going 1-to-1 was another time I had to reboot. Also, learning targets. I don't know what you guys use in the UK, but since we abandoned the textbook in my department, I'm also department chair. We can't just teach whatever we want throughout the different levels, since our students feed into each other. So we just, we created learning targets for each unit of study that we do for each level and each language. We only offer French and Spanish at my school. So we collaborate together, we make these learning targets. You can also see that they're color coded. Green represents knowledge, orange is skill, red is reasoning, and blue is product. And these are actually given to students at the beginning of each unit. Again, think of this as their roadmap. So this is their address in the GPS analogy, and this keeps learning from being a mystery to students. Students know what is expected. Instead of just turning the pages in the textbook, it's all here for them, so that by the end of the unit, they should be able to do these things. And if they can't, that's when I need to intervene and figure out how to best support them. So this was a huge shift for us, but it's really transformed the way I teach. Another thing, in thinking about planning, I rely a lot on John Hattie's feedback loop. So again, I made this little infographic to help me and the students understand. Once we articulate what the learning targets are and I teach something new, the students do something with the something new, and then I check for understanding. Now, some kids are going to go straight down and get it right away, as we know, but there's so many differing levels, even among the same level of language you teach, I'm sure you find the same thing, that some students are going to be more on their way, and you might have to give them a little bit more feedback to get them back on the road, back on the right path. And then some students are going to have no idea. They have completely pulled off the road. They're sitting there waiting for you to tell them what to do next. So if you think in terms of planning and replanning and how that goes, that's where some technology comes in, and we'll get to that, I promise, in just a second. In terms of planning, when I first started teaching when I was 22 years old, I had to use the North Carolina 6-point lesson plan, really kind of old school. But since I employ the idea of backward design, I use a different plan, and I even made this plan. And once you access this presentation, if you click on this, you can have access to this if you want. You can tweak it, you can do whatever you want with it. But it's a backward design, I call it a lesson plan companion guide. You put your learning targets here. How are you going to know if students can achieve what you want them to do? And then you plan what your learning progression or your learning experience is. And you can see I've even built in places. Here's where the technology would go, or however you're going to check for understanding. And if the kids get it, what can you give them that will extend their learning so they're not just sitting there? Those kids who still need a little bit more support, what can you give them? And kids that have no idea, how can you go back, and there's that feedback loop again. How can you go back and reteach something or explain something in a different way? So this helps me because I can actually write stuff down. As much as I love technology, I still handwrite all my lesson plans because that makes a better connection to my brain. So feel free to use this if you want it. Okay. Getting a little bit more into the technology, how do you check for understanding? Now, these tech tools are not the tools we're going to talk about because I know you know these very well, but these are the tools I go to. And by the way, again, once you have the presentation, each of these is clickable. So there you go. But these give...
¡Ay, qué susto!
Oh, hello. So these tech tools give us quick data and actually kind of a break sometimes, because if we are going crazy and teaching quickly all the time, sometimes I might just say, yeah, let's play GimKit because every child loves it, and it gives my brain a chance to catch up or look ahead at what we're going to do next. But also these tools are great because they give us the concrete data that says this kid is getting it and this kid is not getting it. So, but come back to those if you want. All right, recalculating, here we go. So quickly, I swear we're getting to the tech in about 3 minutes. Okay, so recalculating, basically what happened this year, all right? The fall was great. I attended my state conference, I presented, I went to the national conference, and I run the social media lounge there. So I offered 4 tech sessions there and everything was great. Then January and February hits, and we start out here we go, you know, I'm welcoming my students face to face, we're building relationships, I'm getting to know them, I'm explaining certain things about proficiency to them in the classroom. My students move around a lot. We're rarely actually in the classroom. So being face-to-face back in school is going to be hard for me since we have to socially distance. But I just spend a lot of time getting to know my students. Again, because I think that students will want to learn from you if they trust you. And this is how I begin to build trust. All right, all that's great. Everything's going well. Then March hits. Here we are. March 13th was our last day in the classroom. Now, I didn't know it was going to be the last day in the classroom. Had I known, I would have said more than, have a great weekend, right? So as you can see, we had played Gimkit that day, and my students were already concerned about the virus. And after that Friday, we didn't come back to school for the rest of the year, which makes me sad. But April, I of course, did everything online from home, and I did a lot with Flipgrid, which I know you guys love. It's just a lifesaver. And I decided that when they did their first prompt, I was going to give all of them video feedback, and I was all excited until I realized, oh my God, that's like 75 videos you have to make. But it was worth it, because I think one of the things we need to remember, however you guys are going to be teaching in the fall, is that whether it's face-to-face or virtually, the human connection is hugely important. And so just remember, there is the quote, man behind the screen, or man on the other side of the screen. And this helped me see my students, and I wanted them to see me as well. I did lots of different things. I created an online escape room. I used Snapchat filters to make up funny stories about things. And this story starts with me being trapped in my house, of course, because we were quarantined, and they had to solve all these clues to help me get out of my house. So things like that to make learning I had to transition a little bit from how I had been teaching. So in other words, instead of rebooting, I took things I already knew how to do, but I recalculated to help us, since we were only learning remotely. Now, by the time May got around, it came around, you can see this is an actual screenshot of my grade book. A lot of kids just had checked out. I think our state did something kind of dumb, and they basically said their grade was going to be based on March 13th. So once the kids heard that, only a few stayed engaged. Excuse me. So I began to get a little bit frustrated, and I thought, well, what am I doing all this for? But there were the diehards that stuck with me. So I kept going. And then June gets here, and you're like, holy cow, what just happened? Where have I been? What have I done? And we'll talk about the reflection piece at the end, because I think that is key for how we're going to move forward. And I guess you guys go back to school in September. We go back to school in August. Okay. So again, I had to recalculate. You saw those big I can statements that I showed you before. Well, that was just too much to try to do in remote learning. So I whittled them down, and I said, okay, over the next 2 weeks, these are our goals. And the students had access to these, of course. I relied heavily on authentic resources. If you're not using the hashtag authres in Twitter and Instagram, please do that, because it will give you a plethora of authentic resources in your language. And this helped a lot too. And I do that when I'm in the classroom, but I definitely relied on this a lot when we were learning remotely. Okay, we're finally to the tech piece. Yes, all right. So the bottom row, I'm not gonna highlight any of those tools, because you guys know about those tools already. And Joe had seen a webinar I offered a few weeks ago for Indiana, and I think he noted a couple of things that he thought you guys might not have been exposed to as much. So again, knowing that I wasn't going to be able to teach like I taught before, and as much technology as I already was using, I did try a few tools, and those are the ones I chose to share with you today. So we're going to talk about the top of the pyramid, these 5, in a little bit more detail. And the first 2 are apps. And I know this is going to be maybe a dumb question. So Joe, maybe you can chime in or whatever, but you guys have access to the same apps that we do, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was
Absolutely.
like, I should have asked you before, but I know that sounds crazy, but you just never know. So, okay. So, and in your group, because you guys are such a connected group specific to technology, you probably have maybe even talked about Clip-O-Matic and the other one I'm going to talk about. But even if, I go to a million workshops, and I go to a bunch of PD online and stuff, and even as much as I already know about technology, when I hear someone talk about the tool that I already know how to use, I always try to think to myself, how can I use this tool differently? And that's me recalculating in my brain. How can I think about using this in a different way? Or maybe I've not heard of something, so I'm excited to learn about it. So hopefully, whether or not you know about these tools I'm going to talk about, just take from it what you need to help you recalculate. So Clip-O-Matic is an app. It is a paid app. I paid about $5 American for it, US dollars, but it's super cool. I'm just going to play. Hopefully these videos are going to work and you can hear them, but it adds text while you're talking. Oh gosh, hang on. Okay.
Hi guys. So right now we're going to talk about the app Clip-O-Matic. And as you can see, as I'm recording my video, it's adding the text in whatever language I'm teaching straight onto the video. Super cool.
Okay, so when we were learning remotely, I made this one. We were learning about basic verbs, actions, activities. So I made this for my students. Oh gosh, sorry. I'm not gonna play the whole thing for you because now you know how the app works.
Yo miro la televisión. Yo leo mi libro.
Okay, so you go on and on like that. So each of these apps in the corner is clickable. So if you're not familiar with Clip-O-Matic, if you're willing to invest the pounds that you would need to purchase it, it will allow you to speak in all these different languages. And it's really, really in tune with what you're saying. So you don't have to type anything, it just does it automatically for you. The one thing it doesn't do is add like punctuation. But even if you really intonate well, it's going to even do the accents and everything. So the great thing is once you've created the video, you can click on the words and go back and add the punctuation if it bothers you. But just so you know, it's very user-friendly with different languages. Okay, so that's Clip-O-Matic, and it was really fun. I wouldn't necessarily ask my students to purchase this app, of course, but it's definitely usable when I'm trying to explain language to my novice level students for them to hear me speak and also see the words, I think. So yeah. This is Texting Story, and it's been around for a few years. So again, some of you probably already know it. But it is so much fun because just use your imagination. Think about how much we text. And again, this app is free, and I wouldn't necessarily ask my students to get the app, but let's say they were creating a conversation. They could send me the text they created, and I could make the video for them. Now, Joe doesn't know it, but here's a conversation that he and I had. Not really. Oh, God, why does it do that? Okay, here we go. All right, so this is Joe inviting me to come do this webinar today. Obviously not really, I made it up, but you can see, think if you do comprehensible input or if you make up stories or they're reading stories, your students, and then you have, what would a texting story look like between two characters in the book you're reading or in the article you're reading or whatever. Think about some creative ways to do it. Now this is one I made up between me and Bradley Cooper, the actor. That's right. Notice if I mess up, it corrects it. I mean, it shows it all. Yeah. A movie with Bradley Cooper. Putting them off a little bit though. Check my schedule. It allows you to put your Bitmoji in. Okay. So, and notice I can change my faces. I can change the names up here. There's so much I can do with this. I just think this has limitless possibilities. Again, this is not a tool that I've used with a lot of frequency with students, but the more I come back to some of these tools, I think, wow, I've just got to start using them because I know the students would enjoy them, especially if they're supplying me with the conversation. So those are the two quick things about those two apps. So I hope you find them useful. Something that absolutely I wrote on here, it would change your life. If you are not familiar with Slides Mania, again, it's clickable right here. It is just this amazing, gigantic compilation of templates you can use in PowerPoint or Google Slides. I'm actually going to just go there because I want you to see hopefully this won't take too long. If you just go to the education templates they have, if you're not familiar, I just learned about this summer, which I know seems crazy as much as I am using technology. But the presentation I'm actually using today with the crumpled up paper and the light bulbs and everything, that is one of these templates. I saw a lady do a webinar about hyperdocs, and I was more interested in the template she had used, which was this. And she was like, you have to use Slides Mania. So notice, look, these are all the stuff they offer for education. But of course, you can see there's a lot of different categories up here. So there's a digital notebook. There's a planner. You could give your students like a plan for the week just in Google Slides. You've got little filing cabinets here. You can store things in a Google Slide format. Treasure hunt, games. Back on my slide, you've got the top secret. All this stuff is built for you. So literally you just replace whatever you want with your information, and the buttons are clickable. Like this choice board I used with students to give them some options, and all these buttons are linked to the next or to the appropriate slide, as you know how that works. But this will just save you so much time, and it's like my new favorite thing to look at. Look how cute this one is, because it looks like the Google. It's so adorable. I'm just so excited to be able to not just use a boring Google slide template thing over and over again, the same ones I've used. And these are already like linked for you. So all the hard work is done. All you do is fill in with the information. So I hope you find that useful. That is Slides Mania. Okay. The two main tools that I want to focus on that Joe actually suggested that you guys might not be quite as familiar with is Formative, or Go Formative. It's the former name. And this is for formative assessments or to check for understanding. Again, I'm just going to actually come out and go ahead and go to something I've already pulled up for you. So here is a scenario where this is a site that I do not pay for. I am a public school teacher, so I don't have that much money, and I have to really decide what I think is valuable and to pay for and what's not. So this is one that I don't pay for because it has enough features that I need for my students and myself. And I'll show you in just a minute. But this one is like a free response, like show your work. And so the prompt is here. What do these actions mean? And these are verbs. These are infinitives. And then they just had to draw what they thought they meant. Now, something you can do is to hide the names of the students, so it makes it a little bit more anonymous so as not to embarrass anyone. Yeah, I don't think they drew I just wanted to scroll down here and show you the last one, because this is how I'm feeling right now. Hang on, it's coming. Oh, there are more on here than I realized. Well, I lost her. Anyway, it was this girl and she was all floppy. Oh, there she is right there. Yeah, that's how I feel right now. So it's funny. It's fun to see what kids can come up with, and it's very, kids can write whatever they want or draw whatever they want. Hopefully they're going to give you the right information. One of the greatest things though is that so many teachers have already made things that you can just grab and alter or use straight up the way they've done it. So I began playing around with that just to show you guys a few things, and I've moved them already to my account. Like La Familia Contenta. So someone has written a description of this family. Again, show your work. All you're going to do is assign this work to your students. It'll ask to pick a class. Maybe you want guest students or whatever. I'll probably have to go back a little bit. You would give it a class. Like, let's say I wanted this class, you assign it, it's going to give you a code. So they don't have to have an account to be able to join. They're joining almost as guests, but you'll see their names come in anyway. Now, I'm sure with the paid version, you can get a lot deeper with what you can do with students with that interactive piece. But all I use this for is to just quickly check for understanding for myself. Again, to know if I need to recalculate or go back and do the feedback loop and think in terms of what do I need to reteach, or are we all in good shape? So this would be the code you would use for that. Let's go back really quickly. Here's another one, and this is using the Spanish royal family. Notice you can put an infographic in, I can put a video in, anything like that, and then ask questions about it. These are fill in the blank or short answer questions. And the greatest thing about this is that these are self-checking. So once I've set it up with the correct answer, once the students do the task, I don't have to grade anything. It comes up with the right responses. So I mean, it'll check it for me, which is a time saver. Now, I'm going to show you this one, la comida, food. I went ahead and did this for you, and I intentionally missed some so you could see what it looks like. So I'm the guest student. Obviously, the green ones are the ones I got right. The red ones are the ones I missed. And these gray ones are ones that the teacher would have to come back and assess, because those are my grapes and my apple. So I have to come back in and give it a score. But still, there's so many combinations of things I can give students. So they're not just answering multiple choice. They're not just answering or doing fill in the blank. They have a variety of things if you choose to do something like that. If I want to make a new one, then let me just show you. This is what I have access to that's not the paid version. So if it's kind of grayed out a little bit, then obviously I don't have access to it. But I use other sites for audio anyway, so I'm okay with not having the audio feature on this. Maybe if I win the lottery, I can start paying for this for my students. But basically, it gives me enough. Notice show your work is the one where they draw true, false, multiple choice, multiple selection, longer essays using videos. So there's enough here that gives me what I need. And again, this is not a site that I use that frequently, but it is something I come back to that's reliable, that's fairly user-friendly, and the students figure it out easily too. And these are things I could give them during remote learning so they could just do it on their own. All I needed to do was provide them with the code that they would need. So I hope that you find that useful as well. And don't forget that each of these icons in the top are clickable, so you can go back and access these later. You don't have to remember what the sites are.
Carmen, can I just ask a question? Is that all right? So
Yes.
you're doing brilliantly, by the way. You need to breathe as well. You're doing absolutely fine. With Go Formative, it can link to Google Classroom. Is that right?
I don't use Google Classroom, but I'm assuming yes, because most of these tools have that feature. Yes.
Yeah, that's great.
I can't speak definitively about that.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Do you find that that the students really like the drawing feature with the show your work option?
Yes, they do, because it just gives them, a chance to be silly if they want to. But you do run the risk of something inappropriate being drawn. But hopefully you've had that netiquette conversation with your students, and that be careful and be respectful of everyone in the classroom, or so if you're doing it live with students. If they're just coming into me, then I still don't want to see anything crude, but yeah, they love that. And again, let's say I don't give them a written prompt. Let's say I just give them a really elongated sentence and see how much they can draw of that sentence. So that is where a little bit of differentiation comes in, because maybe some kids pull out just a couple of key things that I said, but some kids are able to go in more detail based on what I said. So it's good for that. Yeah,
that's fantastic. And with, so everything you've shown us there, that's in the free version, but there's also the PDF that you can upload, can't you, and make it interactive?
Yeah, that's what it says here. Now, I've not done that.
Yeah, so I think I'm right in saying that you can have 20 PDFs per month. Yeah, it says, she says it, 20.
That's right.
So you can upload a PDF, and then you can then add interactive elements within that PDF to make it like a dynamic worksheet. So we had a Tilt webinar looking at liveworksheets.com. I don't know if you know that website. But it's, I think it's quite similar in that way. So that's if people haven't checked that out, have a look at the enhancer PDF.Google Doc option within Formative, because that allows you to make your PDFs interactive, which could be very useful at the moment, I think.
And there's the recalculating piece. You take something you already have without starting over.
Yeah, perfect.
But giving it a little bit of a tweak. Yeah. Good.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm sorry. I mentioned in the mountains, so a lot of our homes don't have air conditioning. If you can imagine, of course, a lot of places in Europe don't have air conditioning either, so it's a little bit hot right now. Okay, Wiser is another tool that I really stumbled upon this in March. Actually, a colleague of mine, a world language coordinator, said, do you not know Wiser? I was like, no. And I think one of the reasons I stayed away from Wiser is because they call themselves worksheets. We were just talking about live worksheets. And because I don't really like textbooks or workbooks or anything like that, I just stayed away from anything called a worksheet, an online worksheet. But when I started looking at this, I couldn't even believe it. So once again, I'm going to come out and show you. Now, this is something I chose to pay for. And as of, it was $35 US for the year. I still don't know what all the perks. I just joined in late March, so I haven't figured out what all I have access to, because honestly, what I've noticed is that most of the things you're ever going to want to do with this, you don't need an account for, and your students don't need an account for either. So you can make the decision whether or not you want to pay. But like, let me give you an example. First of all, it gives you such pretty little templates. I'm extremely visual. I don't know if you've noticed that or not, but I like the visual stuff. So this is one, this is probably the first one I made once we transitioned to remote learning. So I do think that with a paid subscription, you have more opportunity for differentiation. You can make class groups and stuff like that, but honestly, just check it out first before you make a decision, because I found it I found the free version just as great. So I added questions, and this is a basic question, of course.
¿Cómo te llamas?
¿Cómo te llamas? Of course, that's easy. But then they can either write their answer or record. Now, there were times when I insisted they use the recording feature, and there were times that I said, you can choose, you can make the option, or they could send me a video or whatever. But it's probably the first one I made. And I'll show you what it looks like. One of my examples, this is going to take me a quick minute to navigate, and I know we're getting short on time, and there are a few other things I want to mention, or at least give you links to, that you can check out on your own.
We're absolutely fine time-wise, Carmen. Don't worry. We started about 10 minutes past 8 o'clock, so feel free. You can have 20 minutes, 25 minutes more. You're absolutely fine. So don't feel pressured. You're doing a brilliant job.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. All right, so this is one, for example. Notice how you can pin it straight to Pinterest too. Oh, and there are already tons, and I mentioned there are tons of worksheets that teachers have already done. All you do is grab them, and again, you can manipulate them as you need to fit your needs. That's how I started. I started just being like a little scavenger, looking at what other people had done, and I was like, you know, I need to make my own stuff, which is what I did. So again, I'm using an authentic source. This is one of those, and this is an animated short that's got no real language to it. So students just have to watch it, and then they had to write about what they thought would happen next or will happen next using the future tense. So that's just one way to do it. So to me, these don't really look like worksheets, but that's what the site calls them. So whatever. And then another fun thing I used these to introduce a unit for my level 3 students. We were getting ready to talk about South America. And so instead of me telling them about South America, I have to find it. I gave them, yeah, here it is, a trivia. So they had to match, they had to Google things and learn about a little bit about the South American countries before I even started the unit. And you can see how this looks. It's slowly coming to life. So this is just like a drag and drop scenario. You just drag, you make the connection between the two things that are right. Okay, but I don't want to do that because now I wanted to show you, these are the things you get to do with Wiser. So you can have an open-ended question. So all those recorded questions, I use the open-ended version. I just speak the question and then they have the opportunity to answer. You can give them multiple choice. They can do close activities, if that's what you guys call them over there, where they're missing words and then you fill them in. You can do that where students just have to generate the language, or there can be like a little drop-down menu for students to choose from, which might provide more scaffolding for your novice level students. Some of these I haven't tried yet. The sorting one I haven't tried. Again, when we were doing home and family, I gave descriptions and let them draw similar to what we just saw in formative. I haven't done the reflection piece yet, so there are a lot of things I haven't tried yet since I'm still new to this, but I will tell you that students gave me a lot of feedback, and they found these super user-friendly, and they were like, we loved the Wisers. And I said, great, because I was hesitant because I probably gave them maybe 2 a week, depending on the task. And I was like, they're going to get so sick of these. But they actually liked them because they could figure out what to do. And I think that's part of learning anything, is just figuring out what you're supposed to do. But they were interactive. They just, everything that I really wanted having to teach remotely came out in this one site. So I really encourage you to check it out. When you are creating a design, it just gives you all these cool templates on the side over here. You can change what the font looks like.
So can I just ask a couple of questions, Carmen? Is that all right? So
if I can answer them, yes.
No, that's fine. So the first thing with Wiser, what are the limitations of the free account? Do you know?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I haven't seen any yet.
Okay.
They're just so, oh God, hang on. God.
So there's not like, there's not a limit on the number of worksheets you can do a month, or?
I haven't seen that, no.
Okay.
Not.
Okay, so that was one question I had in mind. Another question from the chat is, do students need an account to submit their work to you with Wiser?
Nope.
No, they don't. Okay.
They don't, because what happens is, let me go back. What happens is, if I want to assign to learners, so if I have a paid version, I can assign by class. So I could select one of my classes. Otherwise, I just say via link.
Oh, okay.
And then, so it won't go away. But yeah, and then you just get away. And then you just, I can pin it. I can embed it even. Hello. I could embed it on a website. I can embed it in a LMS, learning management system. I could just give them the link. Typically what I did, I used our LMS to prep all the activities for the day, and then I would just give them the clickable link that they needed. That's it. That's
great. And it has a Google Classroom integration there as well, doesn't it?
There you go. It does. Yeah. And their answers populate on the side, and then I can just go through and see, but I can already tell who got what score. Now,
that's great. That's
if
great.
They're open-ended,
yeah.
I have to call them. Yeah. But
that's great.
Yeah.
Audrey in the chat has asked, can you add interactive items to the video on the worksheet like you can, for example, for learning apps? Do you know?
No, I don't know, but I don't think so. It's not like where you can stop the video.
Okay.
You know, and it's not, they're not, as far as I know, I use other sites for that kind of thing. But if it's just general, like summarize this video or something really short, then this is an easy platform to use, just to throw the video in and be able to, for them to answer in that box or whatever.
Okay.
But it's not, to my knowledge, it's not interactive like Edpuzzle or other things like that.
Gotcha. Yeah, we've had the question, Florence, about does it work with Microsoft Teams? So as Carmen just showed, it creates a link, so it means it will work with any LMS. Basically, you just need to have the link, and it'll be absolutely, that's absolutely fine. So we've had a question about GDPR, which we always get a question about technology. So I presume this is an American company, and I presume the servers are based in the US, but I don't know in the privacy terms whether it says it's GDPR compliant or not. But that would be something that the teacher in the chat could check out. But I would imagine that all the info is kept on servers in the US, unless I'm wrong about that. But I presume it's a US company, isn't it, Wiser?
I honestly don't know. And one of the sites from the webinar that Claire did last week, all the BBC stuff I can't access here. So this might not be something you guys can access. And I didn't check that.
No, that's fine. Don't worry. I presume it's COPPA compliant, isn't it? No, don't worry. It's absolutely fine. I think the most important thing is that we get to see all these different tools, and then it's down to teachers, obviously, to check out the terms and conditions and the privacy. Yeah. That's absolutely fine. Nothing to apologize for at all. That's great.
No, that's what I mean. It's so interesting. I just take for granted what I have access to, and So, but there are certain things I have tried to access from other countries that I can't too. So I get it, how it works both ways. But again, I hope it works for you guys, because it really was just was I'm going to say brilliant for me because it was I had to throw one brilliant in. Yeah. And moving on, I know it's 4. Okay. I hope you can access all these sites. I don't know. So I am certainly not an app smasher expert, but one thing I have done that my students absolutely love, and I just had to share it with you. There's the GIF again. I'm apparently obsessed with Will Ferrell. And again, I hope you can access this site. It's called Prank Me Not, which sounds really sketchy. But even our firewalls and stuff at school don't block it, thank goodness. But you can create fake Facebook and tweets. So like if I click on the tweet, I can change the language. It doesn't give you a plethora of languages, but it does offer you some. I could change my image. I can change my my handle. My students call me, I don't know why, my last name is Scoggins, but they call me Scog Dog. So that might be my handle, and you can notice it's populating over here. I can change the image, and here's where the tweet is. I could say, hi, I am having a great time on the TILT webinar. Okay, now then you save it as an image, okay? And then what I make my students do, I'm just gonna go ahead to the next slide and show you some student examples. I go to giphy.com. I say GIF, I know it's probably GIF, but I'm always gonna say GIF. So this is a student example. So my students were having to talk about their daily routines. So this particular student used Google Sites. I'm not a giant fan of Google Sites because it's not quite visual enough for me, but so here's her daily routine, her getting up. So not only is she giving me language that I need her to give me without her just conjugating verbs or filling in a worksheet, she's using the language and she's associated an image with that language. So I know that she knows what it means, which is awesome. Now, I encourage them to use hashtags, and of course, this one isn't perfect, but still, she's pushing herself a little bit. Let's see, let me move my face. And then at night, her going to bed, this is how I feel all the time. And again, it's just the power of the GIF, if nothing else. It's coming up. Hopefully, maybe, this is a great example.
While that's coming up, can I just ask, Carmen, when you had the GIF when you appeared in it towards the beginning, how did you make that GIF?
I actually have an app on my phone. It's called 5-second GIF.
Cool, because the one I recommend is called IMG-PLAY,
yes.
image. I'd say it's called Image Play, but it's IMG.
Oh.
So in other words, in that example, you're obviously using a commercial GIF, as it were, or one that's been taken from a TV program or of a movie. But
right.
You could get the students to
yes.
create their own animated GIFs,
yes.
maybe make like a collaborative Google Slides presentation,
yes.
And then everyone then adds their GIFs with their own made-up tweets in that example.
Exactly. My students make GIFs all the time. Again, they work so well with action, with verbs, of course. And then the other students have to supply the language of what's happening in the GIF. And we use different things. I use IMG flip, maybe image flip, but you said image play, so I have to check that out.
Yeah, image play is amazing, and you can add text as well if you wanted to. So I remember doing a training session, face-to-face training session a few months ago, and someone had written "I drink coffee" in French, and then was pretending to drink coffee in the animated GIF, and then we published them all onto Padlet because that accepts animated GIFs, but you could use Google Slides as well, and then add text as well.
Awesome. So this is the same thing. Now this is just using Google Slides instead. Sorry, these take so long to come up. But my students
Helen's, sorry, I just mentioned as well, Helen's also pointed out in the chat that if you do a search for, say, a word like love French in Giphy, you might find inappropriate images. So I think that I wouldn't recommend that the students search in Giphy in class, but that's why I think image play is nice in the way that they can make their own GIFs, and then it's all fine.
I agree 100%. Now, my students did use Giphy. I'm a little bit more, I'm one of these teachers who constantly is walking around and monitoring, and we had the conversation before we started. Obviously, I'm
I love that.
trusting you to do the right thing with this. So these students actually are retelling a story using the tweets and the GIFs. So it really works so well because they absolutely love it. It's not no pressure for them because gifts are part of their lives, right? So it's just something they really relate to and they can understand. It's learning to speak their language, so to speak. Okay, I swear to you, give me 5 more minutes. Okay, now here is where you're going to have access to some of my national presentations. This was, again, thinking of recalculating, rethinking how you use tools that you know really well. So I'm just going to come back out and go to my actual presentation. And of course, I used Wix to make the website. But now that you have access to this one presentation I gave, here are the other 3 that I did during the conference, and they're all tech related. So hopefully you'll find them useful if you have time to play around. I also have the one from 2019. If you just use the Wix site URL and then just change the end to 2019, you can go as far back as 2016 to access all of my actual stuff. And again, it's all technology related. So just have at it and ask me some questions if you want. But rethinking tech, like Kahoot has to be probably, I mean, it's so old now, but it still has some value, right? I mean, and so we don't want to completely abandon Kahoot, but maybe have the students write descriptions about themselves, and then those become the clues, and then the students' names are the answer choices. The first thing I realized is that the students didn't know each other in class. So in terms of thinking about building a community of language learners together, this was great. We got to know each other a little bit, and it was just really very useful. Okay, Flipgrid. Think of other more creative ways to use Flipgrid. Something you already know, like I have my students maybe talk about a little bit about their childhood, but they'll leave something just a little bit open-ended, and then students have to ask them follow-up questions to try to get the information out of them, right? I mentioned Edpuzzle. Edpuzzle will always be my very favorite tech tool, probably forever. And if you're not familiar with Edpuzzle, it is one of those interactive videos where you can embed questions in the video, which is brilliant. I said it again, because students can rewatch segments and then get the information they need, and they can be open-ended or multiple choice or whatever. But more often than not, the way I use Edpuzzle is by using animated shorts that, again, have no language, and I give students a specific task. So they provide by writing the language that would accompany the animated the animated short. So I just love it, love it, love it. Any site that allows you,
sorry, is there a website you particularly would recommend for finding good animated shorts?
I just go on YouTube and do not think I'm lame or anything, but I do have a YouTube channel. It's just Carmen Scoggins. If you want to start there, I have a giant list of animated shorts you could start with.
Fantastic. Could you put the link in the chat if that's okay? That'd be amazing.
I mean, yeah. Once in a minute when I finish.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. I'm sure we'll have lots of questions as well, but that's great. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, it's just and now that my students know that's how I use them, they send me ideas all the time. They're like, and here's the other amazing thing about these animated shorts. They often always have a very strong message to them. And there's where you can build like empathy and just talk about some of the harder topics that we need to talk about and share with students just by this cartoon that they're watching or whatever. And I cry a lot sometimes when we're watching our animated shorts, and they think I'm crazy, but I think anytime you can tie emotion to learning anything, that you're pretty golden. We're gonna skip some of these. Some of these are clickable, so feel free to come back to them. Again, I use Quizlet Live to introduce a new unit with like trivia, so students have to actually Google responses before they can answer the question, so that puts a little pressure on them. Most of my students have iPhones, so they usually come equipped with some kind of voice memo. I'll put some kind of image up or some kind of prompt, and they'll just use their voice memo, quickly say whatever comes to their mind, and then they can just airdrop it to me. Again, this is rethinking tech. This is recalculating a little bit. Obviously, Joe, I've heard you talk about Adobe, all the Adobe stuff that's just so much out there in the world, how you can make quick things and your students can use this. It's very user-friendly. And Bitmoji I use all the time. And now Snapchat is not something I use with students. I don't follow them. They don't follow me. I just use the filters to make videos and stuff for them, just because I think that, you know, the filters make, like I said, make your skin look really good. So, but I also, if you want to go back and look, these are some reflections I did. Again, I think reflecting is keen, a huge part of teaching, and we don't often take the time to reflect. So one year I made myself reflect at the end of each day. I didn't put all of them on here, of course, but it made me do it because I use Snapchat filters, and it motivated me to do my reflection. Just an idea. Okay, we're wrapping it up, and then you can ask questions or you can jump off whatever you need to do. All of these are the same thing. They're just clickable. All right, so to reboot or not to reboot or whatever you decide, or recalculate, you're going to have to decide for yourselves and your students. What are your needs? What are their needs? Now, I can tell you for me, I just found out, like I said, on Tuesday, I'll be teaching some students face-to-face 2 days a week. The other 3 days, they'll be doing remote learning. So I have that combination already going on. Some of our students are going to join some kind of virtual academy. They will only be learning virtually. So goodness knows what different types of scenarios I'm going to be teaching. So I'm going to go ahead and say for me, there's going to be a little bit of rebooting going on because it's going to be kind of new for me to teach in this way. Our department has already created pre-assessments. We know that they're going to be learning gaps from this spring to the fall. All those kids that kind of checked out, again, using different choice boards and giving students choice and voice. This is an actual physical choice board I have in my classroom. Of course, we probably won't be using that much. I don't want people to touch things, but you can make a virtual choice board just as easily. I use Wix, but any platform, Google Sites, but don't forget about those awesome Slides Mania templates that automatically put those buttons in there for you. I also did a little checklist of our I can statements at the end of, or at the very end of the year, to see if students could do this with confidence, they needed some prompting, or they couldn't do it at all. This is going to give me a good indication. I'll have to start going through these actually as I begin to plan for the fall. And I don't teach the next level of Spanish. I teach Spanish 1 and 3, but I can tell my colleagues who teach level 2, these are going to be some of the things that students are going to be deficient in just because of the virus and being at home and everything. So this is me already thinking about rebooting. And again, I mentioned that reflection piece. We don't learn from our experience, we learn from reflecting on experience. Again, I like Dewey, but I really think this is super important. At the very end of the school year, these were my reflections. So this is like June 1st, I wrote these down. Human interactions are so important. I had to reprioritize a little bit, give them good feedback. And I wrote, watch your bandwidth. And I'm not talking about technology bandwidth. I'm talking about your emotional bandwidth. How are you handling yourself? How is this? Because what we are being asked to do is really hard and very challenging. So I encourage you guys to keep your own bandwidth in check. And these were some of my student comments. So what I'll do now, I make them reflect too. I told you that all the time, is I'm thinking about these reflections and thinking about how I can turn these into ideas for the fall and troubleshooting things that are going to come up, and what do I need to think about and pre-reflect. That's not a word, I know. So what's next? Back a little bit, back to the gifts. I'm sorry, I had to end with gifts. You know, watch some Netflix. I'm not going to lie, thank goodness for television this summer and this spring. Read and go outside. This is me outside. All bugs on the planet like me, so I don't go outside a lot, but I should. This is also me at the beach. I'm not really a beach person, but it's great since I'm 6.5 hours from the beach anyway, no big deal. But you know, I'm also working from home still. I've been giving some webinars. I'm participating in a lot of professional development. This is me, going to be me getting ready for school every morning, because I know it's going to be like that, trying to mask it up and put some gloves on. This is me getting my classroom ready every day between classes. Just, I don't even know how this is going to work, so I'm hoping for the best. No matter what, though, I'll be doing this every day for sure. I definitely have to get my wine time in. So whether you decide to reboot, recalculate, or redrink this red wine, I'm going to leave you with this R before I answer questions. I made this up for you guys. Reset. Let's continue to recharge, energize ourselves so we can sustain and evolve together. And you guys and your group, ALL and TILT, and you guys have such a unique, you are a family. I saw somebody write that in the comments, and I think that's just what it's all about. So thank you for supporting each other, and certainly thank you for having me this evening, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
That was amazing, Carmen. Thank you so much. Wow. Particularly the gifts at the end, the medley of the gifts at the end. That was brilliant. Thank you. You've really made me think as well, I'm sure, with everyone else as well. Wow. Yeah, blown away. That's great. I noticed a moment ago in your Chrome extensions, you had the IL, which is Inside Learning, isn't it? Have you used that at all? Inside Learning? Because it's a bit like live worksheets and Wiser, isn't it?
Is it Insert Learning?
Insert Learning, sorry. Yeah, Insert Learning, yeah.
So I have looked at it. I have not taken the time to try to do it. I don't want to do that now.
That's fine. I think I'm right in saying you take a PDF, you upload it onto Insert Learning, and then you can then again add interactive elements to it, a bit like formative, I think.
Yes. And it definitely, sorry, I have a few email accounts. Let's just look. But yeah, you're 100% right. So you put up some kind of text. I don't know if it's going to let me do it because you guys.
It's okay. We can have a look later. It's fine. Don't worry.
Okay, but Insert Learning, and you can see it's a Chrome extension, right?
Yeah.
So.
One question I wanted to ask, if that's okay. I wasn't sure if everyone was clear about when you talked about in one of your rubrics earlier about modes, because that's a very American thing, isn't it? You got 3 modes. Like we talk about listening, speaking, reading, and writing, I think, which is sort of like the equivalent. But can you just maybe explain the thinking behind having modes and what they actually mean in reality?
Yeah, okay. I can. And I wondered.
I just ask people just to put their videos on as well, just because I know people have to go, and it's just nice to capture people before they do. It's lovely to carry on talking, but just before everyone has to go, and they will have to say sorry and thank you.
I'll put my YouTube.
It's lovely to see all of the thanks that there are there in the chat. People have absolutely loved it because, if you don't mind, just interrupting for a moment, just to say the way that you have brought in not just the technology, but the thinking behind it. And I think you're right. Sometimes we don't want to have theory all the time. Sometimes you just want to get into it. But this has been a brilliant way that you've brought in the theory, brought in the names, the fact that all these names you're mentioning, yes, we're having Hattie, Dewey, it's just been fantastic. So I'd love to take a picture and then Joe can ask more questions. Everybody, smile for the photos, please. And Anna, you're not showing us today. And Helen, Mart,
don't be shy.
Come on.
We're out of light. I forgot to put a shilling in the meter.
I love you guys.
You realise I had my hair cut, especially. I want to have a picture of that.
I noticed. I said in the first line.
Oh, did you? Okay, so I'm about to do it then. And 1, 2, 3. There we go. And I'll take one more because Elizabeth, you were looking down then. And again. 1, 2, 3. There. Everybody was great then. Thank you very much.
Awesome.
Lovely. Really good.
And let's give Carmen a round of applause. That was really fantastic. Round of applause. Awesome stuff. Fantastic. Thank you.
I'm having my first hot flash, if you guys know.
So going back to modes, the 3 modes, could you just explain the thinking behind them? Because it's been very much an American thing, isn't it? An ACTFL very much pushed it.
It's an ACTFL thing. Yeah, it's the American Council on the Teaching of Foreign Languages. If you just Google that acronym, ACTFL, then it's anything you want will come up. But we operate on the modes of communication. We consider listening, speaking, reading, and writing skills. Yes, they are still alive and well in our classrooms. But for us, the modes of communication are interpretive. So that can be listening, reading, or even viewing something. Like, let's say you are viewing a painting and you're asking students questions about it. That's still interpretive. Then we have interpersonal, which is obviously what it sounds like, speaking to each other. So that's either speaking or writing, like those texting stories could be interpersonal, or texting in general is interpersonal. And then there's presentational, which is a little bit more formal. We call like class presentations presentational, but really presentational writing or speaking is if you have a determined audience. Let's say you are trying to convince your school board to not have face-to-face learning in September, then that would be a true presentational. And that is also language that is not, it can be practiced, it's more polished, but it's not something that you can get feedback on immediately. So as a language student, I'm just giving my presentation. That's presentational.
Okay. And then what sort of weighting do teachers give to the different modes, or what's the expectation? I mean, the presentational mode, would that be more of like a summative assessment type mode, or?
It depends. When we set up our grade books, I have all of the modes as equal value, because to me they're equally important. And then so I have a summative assessment category, and then the 3 modes categories, and then a classwork category where any of that doesn't fit in. That's what I call it. But that way, each of the modes I just consider the same amount, because they're all valuable. And then the way we do, well, not every teacher in the United States does this, but the way we do our summative assessments, we call them IPAs, not beer, but integrated performance assessments, where each of those summative assessments combines those 3 modes of communication. So that's why we put equal value on everything. Now, they take a long time to grade, but if I use some of these tools that we've talked about that are self-checking, even if I'm using, an interpretive video on Wiser, and I have a set right or wrong answer, I don't have to grade that. It's already graded for me. I could just see what the students have understood from the video. So you just have to decide if that's the way I try to assess. Yeah. So
That's great. That's great. And I think a few years ago, there was some work done by teachers who are particularly techie around sort of mapping the 3 modes with tech tools. Is that right, from ACTFL?
Yeah, I have a lot of, if you check out my ACTFL websites, I don't remember which year it was, maybe 2016 or 2017, just go to that URL. I have a list of tech tools by mode of communication.
Brilliant. So that would be on the Wix site that you've already shared.
Yeah. Oh, well, I have like 100 Wix sites. I know Wix is going to kill me. When I retire, I'm going to work for Wix. Wix is so visual, and it just speaks to my soul, right? So I present probably between 5 and 10 times a year, and I always present with Wix. I mean, I use Google Slides with you guys today, but I just risk it that the technology is going to be there that I need, because I love it. And that way teachers walk away with a URL, and that's all they need. So it works for me. But anyway, so yeah, just type in, I'll put all that in the chat. I'm going to do all that.
That's awesome. So with Wix, it's drag and drop interface, isn't it? And then you just put your images in and put your headers in, and it's a really nice idea. Yeah.
Yeah. And that way, and they have so many free templates. And so as I have a theme, as I have the idea, I start to peruse the templates, and then I really let the template I choose guide my presentation, if that makes any sense. That's how my brain
That's
is.
Wonderful. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Carmen. Helen.
Thank you for asking that question about modes. I've just put a link there, and I've not come across that before, and I love it. I really like the way that it's distinguishing these skills for their purpose. Because so often we have loads of debates about, how artificial it can be just to have one skill. But there, it's really clear. It's saying, yes, sometimes you do need speaking just for one way presentation, or writing for one way, as opposed to the interpersonal. And similarly with reading and listening, sometimes it is just a skill on its own, isn't it? So, sorry, I've just got excited looking at that.
No, that's fine.
Really
I'm
helpful.
so glad.
It might help with our current off-qual. Well, anyway, yes, my mind's going.
So does anyone have any questions for Carmen? Here we
go. Okay.
To ask Carmen lots of questions about how languages are being taught in the States. It'd be great to...
I don't know if I'm doing the best job of it.
No, you're doing fine. So would you say the most popular, or the most taught language, should I say, is Spanish in the States as opposed to French?
Yes.
Yeah.
French and Spanish probably. I was talking to Helen earlier, saying that unfortunately the United States tends to not value learning another language, so we are a little bit behind the curve on that. But I mean, obviously I live in the language world, so all of my friends, and that's all we do. But I mean, we still teach spoken Latin in this country too by some of the best teachers I've ever met in my life. Some of the ACTFL National Teachers of the Year have been Latin teachers, German, French, Spanish, Mandarin, some Arabic, not as much in North Carolina, but so yeah, but we offer a lot of languages. It's just definitely Spanish is the top language probably taught in the United States.
And the hashtag that you mentioned earlier, Authres, which is AUTHRES, is a really fantastic hashtag, which was created by Amy Leonard, I think, wasn't it, back in whenever that was now, 8 years ago.
It sounds right. I didn't know that she created it, but
I think so. I think, well, that's where I came across her wiki. She did some wikis around Authres.
Wiki, right? Because wikis were the thing back then.
Yeah, that's right. So particularly for Spanish resources, if you're a Spanish teacher in the chat or you're listening to this, do check out the Authres hashtag, because you'll find lots of Hispanic resources, particularly posted by American language teachers. So it's a really nice hashtag to follow. And I think, I mean, you were saying about, the languages community in the UK being like a family, but in the US as well, there's a really strong languages community, popular, faces that appear at ACTFL and what have you. It's a really nice community there as well. So, via the Lang Chat community. So you have the Lang Chat hashtag, we have MFL Twitterati. It's just brilliant that language teachers here, there and everywhere are coming together and sharing their good practice, particularly through the webinar. So you were saying that you've done other PDs through webinars. What sort of associations have you done? I know you did one for IFLTA, didn't you? Which is I did. Is that Illinois? Is that right? Illinois? Indiana. Indiana, yeah. Mm-hmm. Indiana. So feel free in the chat to sort of mention other places where you can find webinars, because I know all the IFLTA webinars are on YouTube. So if you search on YouTube, you'll find the channel, and then you can then subscribe to them. And you've got people like yourself, other sort of well-known people. We've got another couple of US educators who are going to be doing a session as well. We've got Catherine Usselin, who this evening has agreed, which I'm very, very excited about. So she's doing the 10th of August for us.
She's my girl. She's amazing. You guys will learn more from her than you did from me, for sure. She's outstanding.
Anyway, but she's amazing. And then we also have, we were going to have Heidi Trude, and then she wasn't able to do it. She was too busy at the time, and she's now agreed. I think 2 days ago, she's now said she's available on the 30th. So this is I'm revealing tonight another couple of dates. So I do like a bit of mystery around these things. So on the 30th of August, the 30th of July, we have Heidi Trude, who's going to be doing virtual reality, which is what she was going to do before. We had Chris Hart. I don't know if you know Chris, who is based in Australia now, but was from the northeast of England. So he did a session essentially on the same content, but because Heidi's so amazing, I thought it's fine. We'll ask her to do the same type of content, but with her own twist to it. And then and then also we haven't agreed a date for this yet, but I've been in touch with Mark Connolly from Massachusetts, who's going to do a session for us as well.
Awesome.
So it's just lovely, I think, to hear from different teachers from around the world and getting their perspective on lockdown and just their own context of talking about the modes and that Helen hadn't heard about before. And so anyway, I don't want to hog the whole evening. Anyone else wants to ask Carmen a question? It's lovely to
see your excitement, because that infects us as well. And you know all these people. It's
there we are.
I know Joe is the connected man. I'm telling you.
Anyway, I am really passionate about it, but but there we are.
The fact that you are part of, the thing that we particularly promote is being an association. And I know that, certainly the internet helps bring people together, doesn't it? But it's still nice to have, if you like, a home. And that's what we tend to say with ALL, it's a home. And you've obviously got the same idea with America, which is rather bigger than we are. So I'm not surprised that your conferences are even bigger. But it's great. But I think this does make me think. I mean, I love hearing about technology, but it is really interesting talking about what different systems there are in other countries for teaching languages, which perhaps perhaps I should be reading my journals more and finding out a bit more, but that's great just to, what language do people use? And even, I don't really want to get into a big debate about it, but even the quality of textbooks. I know that there are people who will reject textbooks, but some of the textbooks I've seen in some places I think, well, I'm not surprised, whereas there are others which I think, you know, have embraced technology, have made it so that, you know, you've got the teacher guide which says, well, here's your, you know, think about, you know, how you're going to survive. I've survived by having a really good textbook so that I haven't had to create resources.
Sure.
I then will add little extra things sometimes to make it a little, you know, hopefully to make it a bit more exciting, but not enough actually. This has made me think, yeah, I ought to put in I'll throw in the odd GIF. That will depend, won't it, as to your situation, what
Sure.
you've got available.
Well, I think that's the great thing about webinars like this is people can then pick and choose the things that really, you know, jump at them or resonate with them. And, you know, for some people, you know, tomorrow you might make an animated GIF with a Google Slides presentation and the children will love it. And that could have, you know, that might change their world for them. So it's all about picking and choosing the things that work for you. And I think that's, you know, that's what, I think if we, through the webinars, if we sort of expose people to lots of ideas, and then people can then pick and choose the things that they particularly like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just added to the chat a name that you all should know. Her name is Leslie Gran, but her Pinterest stuff, she's already compiled all these authentic resources for so many languages, and it's all categorized, and it is amazing. When I need anything, instead of just going randomly to Pinterest, I just start with her, and she is shares and shares and shares and shares. And so if you'll just open that, you can see all her boards, and she's got everything organized by topic, by language. I mean, she's got Chinese, Italian, German, French, whatever.
Brilliant.
It's there. It's
Brilliant.
amazing. And that way, then you've got that. So we try to use authentic resources with our students to give them as much real life connection to the language as possible. And so the idea that what our tagline is don't alter the text, or don't, oh God, I can't say it now. You want to tweak the questions that you're asking using the authentic videos, because we know that our beginning language learners cannot follow a real commercial in that target language because it's too much language. But you tweak how you ask them questions, and you scaffold for them. So I could even use the same authentic video with every single level I teach. It just depends on how I approach it. So, yeah.
I love the idea of the animated shorts without a narration. I think that's a great idea.
Life. Yes, so good.
Yeah.
I love it. I put
Excellent.
a link to some of the animated shorts, but if you just go to YouTube and just type my name, Carmen Scoggins.
I found your playlist.
Yeah, Helen's put your link in the chat.
Oh, please do not. There's a lot of random stuff in there. So don't be like, what are you? And this was my, you know, I started using the Google and the Chrome and and YouTube before my school ever went in that direction. And so all this is under my personal email, not my school email, which probably isn't good, but it's too late now. I'm not separating it out. It's too much. And so that's just where I store everything. So.
Fantastic.
So
any questions from anybody at all? This is your opportunity, a once in a lifetime opportunity.
You guys are hardcore. It's getting late there. I hope you've all had enough.
It's coming up, yeah, 9:30 now.
Or whatever that you drink. I promise this has just been water. I promise.
No, I think you really have given us so many ideas that we can then follow up, because you've given us the theory of it, and then loads of ideas. And really, what we do is then share the video, but also share the chat where people have been writing things, and people have asked any sort of access to any of your your presentations which you've given us. So that's great. Yeah, and I'm happy. I mean, so I can access the chat later because I'm not going to have time to read everything. If you have further questions, just email me. I mean, I'm happy. I'm pretty quick responder, and I'm happy to try to explain it. We can do a Zoom call. We can talk more in depth. Again, I've been doing this for 26 years. I just believe in giving back to the profession because we have to be there for each other. And I do not sell anything. I just give it, which one day I'll regret it when I've got no retirement. But at the same time, I just believe in sharing. So yeah,
that's amazing. Amazing.
Wow. All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody. Yeah. Really good. Lovely to meet you, Carmen. That was
Thank you. You're so great.
Lovely.
Loved it. I will be looking for Catherine and Heidi's, and I'll probably see you guys again because.
Oh, well, anytime you want to pop in, definitely, you'd always be welcome. And well done for your first international webinar as well.
Thank you so
Really
much.
awesome.
I do like to talk, so.
Well, we're language teachers. We all do, don't we? That is what we're about.
Yes.
How are you, Jenny? I can see you there at the top right.
Oh,
You're going to speak? Shy there.
it's all good. It's all
Okay.
good. Right.
Thank you all.
Thank you ever so much. It's really brilliant. Lovely to see you as well, Carmen. Absolutely
Thank you.
awesome
And there's
stuff.
nothing else I need to do. And
No,
so
you're all good. So
you'll-
Helen will send you the link to the recording. You can download the video. You can download the chat from there. And then also Helen does an amazing job on doing an archive of every presentation on the AWL London website. So you'll get a page to yourself with the recording link. I'll put the recording up onto
Not
YouTube.
a Wix one. It won't be all. I'll have to put a special on yours. We'll have to.
I'm weird that way. I don't know why. that's how I am.
I think a lot of language teachers, we love. I mean, most people. I don't know a single language teacher who doesn't love stationery and stickers. And you know, that's the way. As a head of department, when I was a head of department, that was the main way of winning people's hearts. Was to give them right at the beginning a lovely pack of their own stationery with highlighters.
There you go. That's the key. That's the key. That's what you have to do.
That's how you get to people's
Purple
hearts.
pen.
That's right.
Well,
things.
Thanks for giving me the platform to share some ideas. And I know it's late there, but I really, really do appreciate it. It was super fun.
No problem. No problem. Our pleasure. Really, our pleasure.
Forward to.
Lovely. Okay, I'm going to make a move. Take care, everybody. Thanks so, so much, Carmen. You did a great job.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Helen. Nice to meet you.
Then. Bye.
Bye-bye.
And Esther, I did notice you say something about Second Life and Tila. Not many people who would know about that.
Oh, it was like a kind of like I remember that it was like 3 years, close to 4 years ago now, and it was like I saw the first. It was my second year at Cardiff University, and I was still teaching in secondary schools.
Yeah.
And I saw that they did a meeting in London about this Stila project. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna go there. And I remember that I spent 2 days having a look on all the projects, and I found it fascinating because they were based about Second Life, all the project, and I was thinking, wow, that's amazing for doing with languages. Yeah. But I don't know if too many people was following or not, because I remember that I gave to my line manager in Cardiff University, and I told him, like, it could be amazing that the students that they learning languages alongside the degree, because as well I'm teaching outside to undergraduates. I'm doing the both things, undergraduate students and students that they take languages alongside the degree. And I told it's like, I think that could be amazing because they could be in contact with students that they are in high school for having like more skills, building up more speaking skills, and they can be like languages ambassadors, like showing like some English to kids that they are learning Spanish and vice versa. But finally they didn't join. That for me was a pity, but I thought that it was fascinating, the Tila project.
Well, I took part in it.
Wow.
And I loved it. I had, and I'm in Second Life. I mean, I liked Second Life. I was obsessed with it at one point. I spent a lot of time in Second Life.
Me too.
I've met. Who are you in Second Life then?
I was in Second Life. I was a Star Trek.
All right.
Like on the series.
Well, I am still there, and I try and get there once a week now. But I learned Italian through being in Second Life because I met Italians there, and I've had a ball in Second Life. I've met so many people I've then met in real life. So I'm Corelia Condor.
Okay, I'm gonna write
very
it.
Attractive. She's got pink hair. She's about mid-20s, and I do an English. Well, up until recently, I've been every week doing an English lesson.
Wow.
Every week I do. I sing a song and then I get them to pronounce the English words to get an English pronunciation. So I loved it, and I did think. I mean, I got to know it through friends I knew or people. What was it? It was Graham Stanley, I think, and Graham Davis, who talked about this TEFL community who met in Second Life. So I went along and I just went for fun, really. I loved it. And I did at one point have I had an island, a Second Life island for my students.
Wow.
And they loved it. They really did. But we never did really use it. It was meant to be that I would then get some French children in and they could work on something together, and it never worked. In the end, it just turned out to be a Second Life club, and I now do Minecraft with the kids. But I did do a TILA project, and for that, I liaised with a Dutch teacher of German.
Wow.
And I teach German to a lowish level. And we had a ball just working out a scenario where they would play a game in Second Life with their little avatars, and they had to solve riddles, which would then give them a code, a bit like an escape room, but a 3D.
Yeah.
So they would come up with the answer, write it in, and then that would open the doors. And it was literally opening a door, and their little avatars would go through.
Wow.
Oh, it was wonderful. It was wonderful. But it took hours and hours and hours to put together. And in the end, I think we found that really I think I had 6 children in the room. And the idea was that each child linked up with a partner from the Netherlands, and then they were the team, and they had to talk in German in order to do this.
Yeah, no, but I remember that I went to that 2 days in London, and when they were explaining all the projects, I was thinking that's amazing for any school joining this, because it's a way like to make friends and learning a language in a kind of informal environment that sometimes the students, they are quite like shy to speaking with the teacher and things like that. And I was thinking that gave to them enough freedom for talking about things that maybe they don't going to learn during the classroom, and asking more like even cheeky or naughty questions that they feeling that they are not allowed to do with the teacher. I was thinking that's amazing. But I don't know, it's like not too many people join it. Maybe it was...
in the end, it's something, I mean, I have to say, I've only ever now seen it as being, it's a sort of icing on the cake. It's an extra thing, because, people talk about children as being digital natives, and it's rubbish.
No, it's a lie. It's a lie.
They can use whatever, Snapchat.
Yes.
Do anything more complicated, and they don't know how to.
No, because it's one of the things that I remember that we clashing at as well at the university, because I'm involved. We start this year with another colleague at the university, a kind of transition project, because we found that the kids, they come into the university, we treat as an adults, and in fact they are maybe all teenagers, but they are still being teenagers. And we ask for amount of literacy and self-thinking, that it's like, it's too much for them. It's like, boom, now it's a big jump. And as well, we put them in a position with the kind of platform that we have, that it's called Learning Central, that they say, most of the teachers say, well, they know how to use it. It's like, no, they know how to use a Snapchat or TikTok that I don't. Yeah. But after that, these kind of other tools, they need a kind of like IT literacy that they don't have. And they say, like some teachers, they say, well, I was on board when the desktops or laptops, they were working, and those kids, they have one since they are toddlers. Like, yeah, but that's not the same thing. They use for other ways. No, it's like they use for reading, or maybe, I don't know, they use for playing and for chatting with friends. And when we were kids, we were doing other things that they don't do. But we ask, or we assume that they know an amount of things about the apps that they don't for childs.
And in a way, I think the other, again, using this term of, people kept on going like digital immigrants and digital natives. And I often think, well, actually, immigrants are much more skilled than natives.
Yes.
They've got whatever they came with, and they've used their minds and their intelligence to... Yeah.
Just a second, Helen. Just a second.
Oh, actually, I'm still recording this. I just realised this. Stop the recording. Stop live stream. Stop recording.